Hi guys, it's Jeanet and welcome back to my channel. Also if you're new here, I post new videos every Wednesday. So today is the second video in my Harry Potter series that is going to be spanning the entirety of November in celebration of the release of The Crimes of Grindelwald. And if you haven't seen my first video yet, then I'll leave a link here and at the end of this video so that you can go check it out for yourself. So today I'm going to be talking about the infamous 8th book of the series, The Cursed Child. And suffice to say, I wasn't very happy with it, so I want to explain why. If there had to have been an 8th book, then I would have much rather have seen Albus go on his own adventure instead of them reusing the original trio's adventures. Because Albus is Harry's son, I would have easily believed an enemy of Harry's to go into Hogwarts pretending to be a teacher and then kidnapping either Albus and Scorpius or all three Potter children. And then it's the journey of the three of them or the two of them having to make do and take matters into their own hands to try and get away from the kidnapper, while Harry and the original trio try and find them on their end. So before I get into my problems with The Cursed Child, I just want to say that if they had advertised it as a dedication to the Harry Potter series instead of part of the canon, then I would have had much less of a problem with it, because it wouldn't have had to have tried to be a cohesive part of the rest of the series. So first I want to look at the characters in Harry Potter versus those exact same characters in The Cursed Child. Now I understand that people change as they grow older, but the changes in this case for me were either too extreme or too stagnant. The fact that Harry, a person who was neglected his entire life, would be willing to kind of just stay at a distance from one of his children and not really seems to care at the beginning, and then suddenly swing to being so ridiculously overprotective that he kind of becomes a bad guy, is completely unbelievable to me. Then looking at Ron, he seemed to be completely flattened down to the comedic relief role that he so often played in the movies, whereas in the books he was so much more than that. And before you go pointing at, oh, but it's a play, therefore they didn't have the time to develop the characters the way that they would in the books, might I point you to Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them, where they have the same kind of format that is needed for a play, yet they still manage to convey the characters so well. Then we get to Draco Malfoy. So in the original 19 years later scene, it is made very clear that even though Harry and Draco aren't exactly friends, they have settled their differences. And unfortunately, once again, this is not reflected in The Cursed Child, where they are basically back to childish banter and being high school bullies and enemies. Then we get to Hogwarts and to the children, and oh, this made me so mad. So usually when a nation has been afflicted by a war or something of equally large conflict, then they will try and rectify the situation by not repeating the mistakes of the past. So I'm from South Africa, and until very recently we went through apartheid. So of course, as a result of that, my parents and most of the parents in our country take great pains to teach their children not to be racist, not to discriminate. The reason why I bring this up is because in Harry Potter they'd fought a war. The wizarding world had been wrecked by it, and one of the big things that seemed to be laminated upon is that the divide between all the houses had caused some serious issues during the war. So with that being said, I find it extremely hard to believe that Hogwarts had simply decided to stay the same, despite knowing that the divide between the houses had previously created an extremely toxic environment. So yeah, for me, the rejection of Albus by his brother and sister and by the rest of the school basically was extremely ridiculous. I couldn't imagine the atmosphere between the four houses being in the exact same state that it was in when Harry was at school there 19 years previous. So I feel like up until now my complaints have been pretty generic and spoiler free, but from here on out it's gonna be pretty spoiler heavy, so you have been warned. I got very frustrated with the fact that they seemed happy to discard a established magical rule. In The Prisoner of Azkaban, it's established that time turners are basically pointless because they create a paradox. So even if you could go back 10 years into the past or more, it wouldn't actually change anything. So that already established fact is completely discarded for Albus and Scorpius's adventures to occur. Then going from that to the fact that Voldemort had apparently had a daughter with Bellatrix, and that daughter is the person that we have never met before and who was very obviously the villain. It felt extremely forced and fanfiction-y, and once again this is something that I wouldn't have had as much of a problem with had the story been marketed as a standalone instead of part of the canonical series. I just can't picture the powerful Voldemort lowering himself by sleeping with one of his followers, because despite how much of a favorite Bellatrix might have been, she is still his follower and she still seems to be one of the people he considers as less or lower than himself. I just think trying to force together two of the biggest fanfiction tropes, one being time travel and the other being Voldemort has a secret son or daughter, was extremely ill-advised, and I couldn't suspend my disbelief long enough for this to work at all, in my opinion. My other issue is with the fact that in a recent interview, J.K. Rowling provided details on what was happening in the trio's future and the future of their families, and those details were directly at odds with the future that was shown in The Cursed Child. Now, her details were a lot more plausible for me, so I have officially accepted them as canon for me. But yeah, that is also one of the things that makes The Cursed Child more unbelievable for me. Honestly, I think the selling point for The Cursed Child was handled poorly and depended too much on J.K. Rowling's name. And I also think that they missed an opportunity to explore the world post-Voldemort instead of going back to things in the past that already had been settled. The Cursed Child is a play that I am happy to accept as a standalone dedication to Harry Potter, but that I absolutely refuse to accept as a canonical part of the series. But that is the end of my first ever rant video on my channel. To my real life friends who watch this video and love The Cursed Child, I'm so sorry. I will buy you chocolate to make up for it. But to everyone else, I hope you enjoyed this. If you did, please consider subscribing and liking, and leave your thoughts down below if you want to try and convince me of your points of view. And my social media links will be in the description box below. Otherwise, I'll see you guys again next time. Bye!